Hey everybody, it's Professor Malat here with the Week 4 overview. I hope you have had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Uh, Hopefully you are getting into summer mode a little bit if you have the type of job or the type of lifestyle that allows it. If not, I apologize, but hopefully you at least had Monday off to rest and relax and spend some time with family and friends enjoying some of the things that you get to enjoy. Um, so we are finished with our literacy narrative unit. I know it was a quick unit. It was just the first 3 weeks. I had you jump right in. Second week, you had your first rough draft due. Third week, you had your revision due. And now here we are in week 4, and we're starting a completely new writing unit. My reason for doing the literacy narrative so quickly and not spending a whole lot of time focusing on it was just to get you used to the idea of writing again. Perhaps for some of you, it's been a long time since you've had to write anything. And maybe for some of you, it's the first time that you had to write some kind of an essay, especially an essay about yourself. Um, so I like to start with the literacy narrative primarily because it's a topic that you're familiar with yourself, your journey as a reader and a writer. So hopefully it wasn't too painful to write that essay. I know that sometimes students are a little uneasy having to write about themselves. But hopefully, this has given you an opportunity to get used to writing again and learning some of the conventions that we use in academic writing before we start focusing on this um, rhetorical analysis. This is the second unit that we will be focusing on in this course, and it is again a unit that you will probably expose to once again when you get into English 1001. So this week we're going to be learning about rhetoric, rhetorical appeals, and rhetorical choices. Yeah, I know you may not understand any of those terms as I blurt them out to you, but I promise you, if you read the materials and you watch the associated lectures, you'll begin to wrap your mind around this whole idea of rhetoric. Rhetoric is simply the art of speaking and writing effectively and persuasively. Um, so, we're going to learn how writers and creators consider the aspects of the rhetorical situation, those things like audience and purpose and context, and how they make rhetorical choices that narrow the audience's angle of vision and persuade through rhetorical appeals. Things that are called logos, ethos, and pathos. I'm not going to explain them in this video because I have another video that actually explains those three primary rhetorical appeals. We'll also explore how an author's style and voice work to create different rhetorical effects. If you can understand the idea that we write for a particular audience and for a particular purpose, and we say things in a particular way to help persuade that audience, then you have got it made for the rest of English. I promise you. So, our objectives this week are to understand what rhetoric is, to understand what we call the rhetorical situation, identify some of those components of rhetoric, identify the different rhetorical appeals, and then you'll also learn about the basics of rhetorical analysis, reflect upon rhetoric in everyday communication, and analyze rhetorical effectiveness in a given text. That sounds like a lot, and it is, but I know that you guys are up to the task. As far as readings this week, we have readings on commas and commas as separators in the University of Mississippi Rhet Lab. Um, I know that many of you probably got overwhelmed with some of the red marks or blue marks or purple marks, whatever color I happened to use at any given moment when I was providing feedback on your drafts and on your revisions. Some of you need to focus on commas, right? You need to understand when to use a comma and when to use a semicolon, when to use a period. So, focusing on these readings on commas and commas as separators, when you use them and when you shouldn't, that will take you a long way as well. I would say, time and again, this is probably one of the biggest punctuation problems in novice writers, in first-year writers, is using a comma when they think they need to pause, when in fact they don't really need it, or they might need to be using a period or a semicolon instead. So these two readings will address those issues. And will help prepare you for the grammar quiz that you will need to do this week. There are also a couple of readings on analysis and rhetorical analysis from the University of Mississippi Rhet Lab, so make sure that you read those. There is an optional module if you have time and you want to read the whole module. I recommend reading through rhetorical appeals, and you would just click through. I'll open the page here. Hopefully you can see that in, you can't see that. Okay. So I'm recording in a different software, and I just realized that the page that I'm sharing and that I'd like to click on is not visible. So anyway, if you click on rhetorical appeals, you can see that you can click next to navigate through the module if you want to do that. It's optional. Also, if you're interested in the readings from the writer's practice, John Warner has a section called Who Are We? That's pages 86 to 90 in the PDF. Again, you can just click on the link here. It will open it up in the viewer within Canvas. Or if you want to, you can click on the download arrow and save it to your computer to read later. There is also a rhetorical analysis assignment handout. I will come back to that in a minute. You can again open it up or download it. It's up to you. And then this week's readings, we have a lecture. It's just under 9 minutes on rhetoric. And there is a website for 12 examples of the rhetorical appeals. I'm going to, I can't open it up and share it. Why is that? Let me stop sharing. Oh, shoot. So here we are. I'm sharing the 12 examples of ethos, pathos, and logos in advertisements. And the reason I put this under videos is because this website has a list of several videos under the explanations of ethos, pathos, and logos. Those are the three primary rhetorical appeals. But then there are several videos that you can watch and even choose from if you want to. As I said before, there are 12 examples. So we have several examples of just pathos, just logos, just ethos. And then we have some examples. Do I have any examples where it's a combination of? Yes. So there are some that are a combination of pathos and ethos, some a combination of pathos and logos, some that use all three. So this will help you to understand a little bit better what the goal of the upcoming rhetorical analysis assignment is. Okay, so I think I've learned how to share different pages within the software that I'm using. I'm actually recording on Canva, which I've done previously, but I've never done it where I've tried to share various screens. So here we are back in our course shell, and I'm focusing again on the watch section. There are a couple of videos that John Warner talks about, he discusses in the reading that I've assigned for this week in Who Are We? He talks about a Corona Light stand commercial, and he talks about a Bud Light swear jar commercial. So these two I've included for you. You are not required to watch them, but they are humorous from certain perspectives. They do contain images and messages surrounding beer culture, so I have provided a content warning for those of you who may be sensitive to that kind of advertising. I don't want to expose anybody to something that makes them feel uncomfortable or feel targeted or feel triggered or anything like that. There are also references to swearing or cursing, even though it's bleeped out. So that could also be deemed insensitive. These are provided solely for context and, as I said before, are not required viewing. They are humorous, and again, if they appeal to you, you're more than welcome to use them as an example as your advertisement selection. So now I want to jump back up to the rhetorical analysis assignment handout. Let me make sure that this is loading, and it is. Okay. So the assignment here is to write an essay that's called a rhetorical analysis. Um, so you're going to read the writing prompt titled "Who Are We" in the book, The Writer's Practice. And then I would like you to write an essay of 3 to 4 pages. So it's a little bit longer than the previous essay. We'll be going to about 800 to 1,000 words, where you examine not only what we call quote unquote the text, which in this case could be an advertisement, a video, so on and so forth, but also what Warner refers to as the quote unquote subtext. What is really being sold? It's not just a product, but it may be a way of life, or it may be, a certain type of image, something like that. So I've provided an outline below, which should help you. As far as organization, you have your introduction, so you should be talking about what the ad is for. Provide a general summary of the context of the ad, the name of the company, your thesis, what is the ad doing or saying, and who is the audience. So draft a complete but concise summary of the text, that is the ad, and aim for about 5 to 8 sentences. Make sure to include the title of the advertisement if you are watching a video and it has a title, or if you don't have it, what the product being advertised is, as well as the name of the company. That way, we have a little bit of context. We know what you're discussing in the body of your paper. In the body of paragraphs, you should have a paragraph where you describe the ad in greater detail so that your audience understands the context for your essay. You cannot assume, even though you've shared the ad in the discussion board post, which we'll talk about in a minute, um, you can't assume that your audience knows exactly the ad that you have watched and are discussing in your papers. So you need to provide a little bit of context so that your audience understands the ad that's being discussed. If there's background information that your audience needs, provide that in the paragraph as well. So, for example, last year we had a Super Bowl ad for Popcorners chips, and it was directed and had some of the actors from the series Breaking Bad. Now, for somebody who's never watched Breaking Bad, they wouldn't understand the context of the advertisement, right? So the humor in it might not be as appealing as to somebody who is a fan of the show Breaking Bad. So it's important to provide that kind of background information, a little bit of an explanation of what the ad was trying to do, right? So that's what I mean about context and about background information, why it's important. Um, Explain the context and the target audience. So, where was the ad published originally? Was it a Super Bowl ad? Was it just something that came out around a holiday? That kind of thing. Who is the audience? Who do you think the advertisers are trying to get to purchase the product, right? That is what we call the target audience. Um, Show the reader how the components of the ad are designed to target that audience. How is it designed to persuade somebody to buy something? And what do you think the values of the audience are? Then I want you to, of course, address the various rhetorical strategies. So this may be as many paragraphs as necessary. If there are rhetorical appeals, such as the appeals to emotion, logic, credibility, timeliness, pathos, logos, ethos, kairos. How does the author utilize one or all of these approaches or many of these approaches? And of course, as a tip, texts rarely utilize only one of the appeals, right? Usually it's a combination of 2 or 3, but of course, it is okay to only have an example of just one of the appeals. That's fine. You might Focus on the deliberate style or structure. So, again, I go back to the example of the Breaking Bad Popcorners commercial. You could focus on how it looks like it is part of the television series, right? And that's a deliberate choice targeted for a particular audience. Any kind of use of evidence, word choice, things like repetition. Repetition is a really big one, especially uses of image or audio. So if you have a very catchy jingle that's repetitive, that makes the information stick more quickly and for longer term in somebody's brain than if it were not repeated over and over again. Things like color, typography, pacing, so on and so forth. These are all ideas that you could explore in greater depth in your body paragraphs. And then, of course, you would have a conclusion that recaps and might discuss cultural implications or ideas. So, you'll be writing more about the techniques that the author or the creator uses than the topic of the advertisement. You may discover, though, that to judge its effectiveness fully, you need to think about how that advertisement or the text contributes to a debate or asks or answers an important question. And that, again, is related to the subtext that John Warner discusses. Then we have the submission details. Of course, it should be MLA style guidelines, MLA format. Um, and if you need a sample paper to refer to, you can click on these links. It will remind you how to format your paper in MLA style and also provide a visual example. Remember that these assignments need to be typed. They're uploaded as a document in the Canvas assignment submission page. Um, and it's best to submit a Microsoft Word in Doc or DocX format or as a PDF. If you use Google Docs, remember you should download and save your document as a Word doc or a PDF and not share the link to your Google Docs page. That just makes extra work for me, and I don't get compensated enough to do the extra work to track down where your document is outside of Canvas. Um, as a rule, I don't accept those shared documents from your Google account, so it's best to learn how to download and save your document and upload it to Canvas. This link takes you to a Google support page that tells you all about how to do that. So that's a skill that you should absolutely learn because you're going to be called on time and again to do this in your writing for your college classes. You must submit a draft prior to being assigned a draft for review for peer review. Um, we will have a peer review assignment. We didn't have peer review for the literacy narrative because that was primarily just you know just getting you warmed up to the real job of writing. We have some important dates here. We have a discussion board that's due this week with an advertisement selection that is due Sunday. And then we will have the rhetorical analysis rough draft, which will be due the following week, peer review the week after that, and then rhetorical analysis revision the week after that. These are all the relevant dates. Um, so again, it's going to be boom, 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 boom. Baby steps, but more writing. So that is the rhetorical analysis assignment. So for this week, let us take a look at the literacy. No, that's last week. Why did it go to week 3? For this week, let's take a look at the discussion board number 3, the advertisement selection. So, to be clear, this is the advertisement that you are going to write about in your essay in the weeks to come. It's not a separate thing. These are scaffolded assignments, and I think this is something that's confused some students at this level. Um, this is the ad that you are thinking about analyzing for essay number 2, the rhetorical analysis. So This is an opportunity for you in this discussion board for you to brainstorm and collaborate. You could find that another student has chosen the same ad or one that's similar to your ideas, and that can provide you with a great opportunity to bounce ideas off of one another. Um, so, for this assignment, I want you to include the name of the commercial or the product being advertised. So, try to be specific as possible. Then copy the link to the commercial or include an image if you've chosen a still ad or a print ad. You can have a commercial, but if you want to do an ad that was in a magazine or on a web page, you can choose that as well. It's up to you, but I do want it to be an advertisement. Um, Explain why you've chosen the ad. Is it funny, interesting? Do the advertisers use someone you like as a spokesperson? Do you just like the product? Some other reason? And then, what do you think is the primary rhetorical strategy used in the ad? So, once you've done the reading on the rhetorical appeals and rhetorical situation, what do you think the advertisers are trying to do? How are they trying to persuade the audience? Are they using emotions? Are they using data and information? Are they using a celebrity as a spokesperson? That would be the call to ethos. Or is it some combination of all of those things? So be sure to comment on two of your peers' posts in a meaningful way by the following Wednesday, but this is due on Sunday. Um, so if you have any questions about it, please let me know. But again, keep in mind, choose an advertisement that you really are interested in and that you want to write about in a paper. Don't just choose any old advertisement, because that's just going to make it that much more difficult for you to complete the writing assignment that will be coming up in a couple of weeks. Okay? Um, so I think that is everything that I need to cover in this overview. Um, Again, the grammar quiz number 4 will be on commas and commas as separators. So make sure that you do those readings and make sure that you absorb all the information on rhetorical appeals, rhetorical analysis, and rhetoric in general. Um, if you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to set up a time where we can meet. I'm really flexible within the weekdays. Just need a 24-hour heads up as far as a meeting time if you want to meet virtually through Zoom. We can also do things through email or through texting. I'm pretty open to how we communicate. So, have a fantastic week and welcome to summer. I know it's astronomically not yet summer, but by our calendar, most of the schools in the area have let out. So, if you live outside of the greater Cincinnati area, if you are elsewhere where your school season might dip into June, um, then you have a little bit more to go until the schools are closed in the area. I'm assuming that several of you are parents. Um, so yeah, okay. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.